Woo! Man, I got to tell you, that was close. I thought we were going to get through a season without hearing anything stupid out of Cheryl Swoopes' mouth and anything that sounds rather interesting, something that you might choose to give some side eye to.
The Indiana Fever's 2025 training camp was never going to be quiet. With Caitlin Clark now the face of a franchise and perhaps even the league, every move the Fever make is magnified under a national spotlight. But no one expected the Fever's first roster cuts to ignite such a heated cultural firestorm. The announcement was simple on paper. Rookies Brie Hall and Yvonne Ejim had been waived. Both were promising young players. Hall came from South Carolina with a reputation as a defensive dog and leader. Ejim was a do-it-all forward who starred at Gonzaga, but neither had guaranteed contracts. Neither had separation-making skill sets to crack a loaded 11-player roster. So the Fever made a decision based on need, fit, and cap math. But then Cheryl Swoopes, WNBA legend and Hall of Famer, entered the...
And you have a black player that just got cut, and Cheryl Swoopes is not happy about it. Call me nuts, but unfortunately for the old WNBA fandom and media, in her case, media and old players, unfortunately, in some cases, you do feel like there is something else lurking behind said opinions that may not be basketball related. Let's put it that way.
Chat. She questioned why Lexi Hull made the cut over Hall. She pointed fingers at Sophie Cunningham, implying her toughness came with problematic baggage. She even hinted that Caitlin Clark's presence was influencing decisions beyond basketball, and then doubled down when fans pushed back. Now, the league is on fire. Is Clark being protected unfairly? Are white players being prioritized over black ones? Is this just smart roster management or something bigger? Today, we're going deep into the most explosive WNBA controversy of the preseason. We'll break down the Fever's roster.
Oh my God, Sophie's a dog. She just is. She's a competitor. She's versatile, so she allows us to do different things. Like, she plays with such a toughness. She's huge, and she's going to be for us all season long. But what she brings from an energy standpoint, she raises the level of play of everybody around her as soon as she steps foot on the floor. Hell, even on the sideline. I mean, her communication, everything. She's definitely an X factor.
Math. Explore the implications of these cuts, analyze Swoopes' criticisms, and explain why Caitlin Clark, like it or not, is at the epicenter of a cultural storm reshaping the league. To understand the controversy, we have to start with the numbers. Because in the WNBA, decisions aren't made in a vacuum. They're made with spreadsheets, salary caps, and league minimums hanging over every roster move. In 2025, the WNBA salary cap sits at just under $1.5 million. Teams can only carry 11 players if they want to stay competitive financially. Every player beyond that costs too much unless you're cutting stars or going with rookies who have unguaranteed cheap contracts. But with the Fever, that wasn't the case. After signing veteran power forward Natasha Howard, trading for Brianna Turner, and bringing in shooter-enforcer Sophie Cunningham, the Fever was stacked with experienced talent. Kelsey Mitchell, Erica Wheeler, and Christy Wallace were already locked into the guard rotation. Alia Boston is the franchise cornerstone in the front court. Nalissa Smith and Temifag Benley round out the bigs. That leaves maybe 1 or 2 slots for younger players. Hall and Ejim were competing for those limited roles, but neither had a standout training camp performance that clearly elevated them over Lexi Hull, a third-year guard who's quietly carved out a niche with Indiana through her defense, spacing, and off-ball awareness. And then there's Sophie Cunningham, the player many fans and Cheryl Swoopes have pointed to as the reason things feel off. Was this really just about performance and fit? Or was it about protecting Caitlin Clark from being challenged by other young voices? Here's where things get messy. The Fever cut Brie Hall, a black player, a South Carolina alum, and someone widely loved by her teammates. The same happened to Yvonne Ejim, another player of color, another rookie with a high ceiling. And in their place, the Fever kept Lexi Hull and Sophie Cunningham, 2 white players with controversial reputations. Enter Cheryl Swoopes. On Instagram, she lit the match. She asked why Hull made it over Hall. She accused the Fever of valuing image and marketability over basketball. She pointed at Cunningham's past, including altercations and incidents from her time in Phoenix, and suggested Indiana was sending the wrong message about toughness. Swoopes didn't hold back, and she didn't stop when fans started clapping back. Instead, she doubled down. She even posted a video reiterating her point. The WNBA needs to be about basketball, not protecting certain players or allowing optics to outweigh merit. This wasn't just a basketball conversation anymore. It became about race, culture, favoritism, and who gets protected in the modern WNBA. Many fans agreed with Swoopes. Others accused her of unfairly targeting Clark, who has done nothing but show up, work, and elevate the league's popularity. The tension boiled into a full-on divide. Caitlin Clark is not the problem, but she is the epicenter of it. Her arrival has exploded WNBA attention, TV deals, sellouts, merchandise, social media reach. No player in league history has shifted the business side of the game like she has. Not even Diana Taurasi, not even Maya Moore. But with that comes pressure and resentment. Many veteran WNBA players feel they had to grind for years just to earn respect. And here comes Clark, fresh out of college, getting commercials, headlines, and influence. That's not Clark's fault, but the perception matters. The Fever are clearly building around her. The roster moves prove it. Cunningham was brought in to be her bodyguard. Hull stays because she knows how to operate without the ball. Every decision now filters through one question. How does this help Caitlin? And that rubs some people the wrong way. Even Fever head coach Stephanie White has had to clarify that these decisions were based on skill, chemistry, and professionalism, not bias. But the timing, the optics, and the deeper history of how black players have been treated in the league made this a powder keg. Sophie Cunningham is a polarizing figure. To her fans, she's a tough, fearless competitor who brings grit and shooting. To her critics, she's a player with a history of cheap shots, inflammatory trash talk, and problematic behavior. In Phoenix, she clashed with players and drew attention for all the wrong reasons.
People were so excited for this game for many reasons, but the main one being that Caitlin Clark would be returning to Iowa to play at Carver Hawkeye Arena, the Brazilian national team. Even though they lost by that much, it still seemed like they had a great time. Caitlin was signing their jerseys after the game. They were taking photos with her.
She's my role model.
Reasons. But in Indiana, the narrative is different. She was brought in for one reason: to protect Caitlin Clark. After what Clark endured in college, constant physicality, trash talk, and even elbows to the face, the Fever needed a veteran who wouldn't back down. Cunningham fits that role. She can guard, hit open shots, and send a message when things get chippy. But keeping her over someone like Ejim sent a signal. It told fans that the Fever are prioritizing intimidation and loyalty over upside and development. That's not necessarily wrong, but it is controversial. Lexi Hull isn't flashy. She's not putting up 20 points or crossing people over on Instagram, but she defends. She spaces the floor, she moves without the ball, and makes smart decisions. The Fever love her for those reasons. Brie Hall, on the other hand, is younger, more athletic, and arguably has a higher ceiling. But she's raw. She's not a consistent shooter, and she didn't stand out enough in training camp to force Indiana to keep her. That's what makes the decision so debatable. If you're trying to win now and build around Clark, Hull makes sense. But if you're building for the future, Hall probably has more long-term value. Swoopes' criticism of Hull wasn't personal, it was about philosophy. Are teams making the safe, polished choice over the bold, developmental one? And does that choice have a racial element when the players involved look different? In the middle of all this stands head coach Stephanie White. She's tasked with building a contender, developing Clark, managing veterans, and navigating media firestorms, all at once. And through it all, she's remained poised. White has repeatedly emphasized that the Fever's decisions are about chemistry, professionalism, and performance. She's not coaching a reality show, she's coaching a basketball team. And to her, Cunningham and Hull give her more reliable, team-first pieces to work with right now. But the pressure is on. If these cuts don't lead to wins, the criticism will only get louder. And if Clark struggles, fans will point to Hall and Ejim and wonder what could have been. The Indiana Fever are not just a basketball team right now, they're the focal point of a league-wide cultural shift. Caitlin Clark has changed everything. More attention, more money, more pressure, and with that comes more controversy. Cutting Brie Hall and Yvonne Ejim wasn't a racist act, it wasn't a conspiracy. It was a basketball decision made under a brutal cap and a win-now mandate. But the optics were bad. And when you factor in America's history of who gets protected and who gets cut, the debate was inevitable. Cheryl Swoopes didn't start the fire, she just refused to ignore the smoke. Now it's up to the Fever to prove they made the right call. And it's up to Caitlin Clark to navigate the impossible, being the most celebrated, most scrutinized rookie the WNBA has ever seen. Because in 2025, every shot she takes, and every teammate she has, will be judged by a league watching more closely than ever before.